All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what is honestly the ultimate superpower of the 21st century. We're going to break down Cal Newport's totally transformative concepts on how to master focus in a world that feels, frankly, perfectly designed to distract us. Let's kick things off with a pretty wild story. Back in 1922, the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung built this super basic, two-story stone house out in the woods near Lake Zurich. No electricity, just totally off the grid. Now, why on earth would he do that? Well, he wasn't running away from his work. He was actually trying to build the extreme focus he needed to push his career forward. See, he was locked in this intense intellectual dogfight with his old mentor, Sigmund Freud, and he knew that to outsmart his rival, he needed a level of deep, careful thought that was just impossible in his hectic city life.
So here's our blueprint for today. We're going to cover the core concepts and the paradox of the modern workplace, and then jump right into the 4 definitive rules for success. Work deeply, embrace boredom, quit social media, and drain the shallows.
We're pulling all these insights straight from Cal Newport's powerhouse of a book, Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success and a Distracted World. Let's just jump right in. Section 1, the core concepts. Before we talk about changing our habits, we've got to clearly define the two massive forces battling it out in the modern workplace, deep versus shallow work. Let's start with the ultimate goal. Deep work is all about professional activities performed in a state of totally distraction-free concentration, stuff that literally pushes your cognitive capabilities to their absolute limit. The crucial takeaway here is that true deep work creates brand new value. It massively upgrades your skills, and it's incredibly hard for anyone else to replicate. Think about Bill Gates during his famous Think Weeks. He'd isolate himself in a lakeside cottage with 0 distractions just to read and think big thoughts. And it worked. That isolation produced the massive 1995 memo that basically launched Microsoft into the internet age. That right there, that's the power of deep work. Now flip that completely upside down and you get shallow work. These are the non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks that we usually do while we're half distracted. It's playing inbox whack-a-mole, acting like a tired human network router, sitting in endless, pointless status meetings, or constantly checking your phone. These efforts, they add practically 0 new value to the world, and honestly, they're so easy to replicate that almost anyone could do them. Which brings us to Section 2, the paradox. Deep work is rare, but highly valuable, and the situation we're currently in is actually pretty fascinating. See, just as the information economy is making deep work more valuable than ever, our modern workplace trends are making it almost impossible to actually pull off. Get this, a McKinsey study found that the average knowledge worker spends more than 60% of their entire work week just engaged in electronic communication and internet searching. And almost 30% of their time is swallowed up just reading and answering emails. It's a staggering visualization of how fragmented our attention has become in today's open office, always online culture. But here's why this is actually incredible news for you. This huge shift toward shallow work has created a massive economic opportunity for the focused few. Take Jason Ben, for example. Jason was a financial consultant who figured out his whole job could basically be automated by a simple Excel macro. He was totally stuck in the distracted masses, spending like 98% of his day just surfing the web. But he wanted out. He wanted to become a highly paid programmer, which, you guessed it, takes intense focus. So he literally locked himself in a room, no computer, just textbooks and note cards, and studied. He completely retrained his brain to focus, mastered programming in record time, and ended up more than doubling his salary in Silicon Valley. Okay, let's get into the blueprint portion of this explainer. Section 3, Rule 1, work deeply. Because look, you can't just rely on good intentions to magically get deep work done. Willpower is finite. You absolutely need a system. To actually integrate this into your life, you've got to pick a scheduling philosophy. And there's no one-size-fits-all here. There are 4 main ones. Monastic means going into total isolation, chopping out all shallow obligations like a reclusive novelist. Then there's bimodal, where you alternate blocks of time, maybe days or weeks, of deep work followed by shallow work. Remember Carl Jung retreating to his tower, then coming back to his clinical practice? That's bimodal. Rhythmic is all about building a daily chain link habit, like committing to 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. every single morning for deep focus. And finally, journalistic, which is squeezing depth into any sudden free stretch of time that pops up in your schedule. You just have to pick the one that fits your specific life and career constraints. But once you pick a philosophy, you need to back it up with a strict ritual. Going deep burns up a lot of willpower, so setting up rigid routines is crucial to remove the friction of just getting started. You need to specify exactly where you'll work, like a specific quiet corner, and for how long. And this is key. You have to figure out exactly how you'll support your brain's energy. Maybe your ritual is brewing a specific type of coffee or physically unplugging your router. Whatever it is, you need a cue to shift your brain into focus mode without wasting mental energy just trying to settle down. Moving right along to Section 4, Rule 2, Embrace boredom. This is all about realizing that focus isn't just a mood. It's a mental muscle that you have to actively train over time. And to strengthen that muscle, we've got to fundamentally change how we handle boredom. One brilliant trick for this is something called productive meditation. It's a pretty straightforward step-by-step process. First, you take a purely physical activity that doesn't take much thought, like walking the dog or taking a shower. Second, you focus intensely on one single, well-defined professional problem. Now, your mind is absolutely going to wander. It happens to everyone. But step 3 is the workout. Whenever it drifts, you consciously pull your attention right back to the problem. It forces you to resist the urge to get distracted and sharpens your concentration, kind of like how mental athletes train to memorize a deck of cards. Another awesome way to train is by doing what's called the Roosevelt Dash. Named after Theodore Roosevelt's crazy intense college study habits, this strategy is all about giving yourself a hard, artificially tight deadline for a high-priority task. You figure out how long a task should normally take, you slash that time down drastically, and then you just attack it with every free neuron until you're done. It forces you into this unwavering intensity because you literally don't have a second to spare for distractions if you want to beat the buzzer. It is basically high-intensity interval training for your brain's attention centers. Now for Section 5, Rule 3, Quit social media. We're tackling the absolute biggest destroyer of depth head-on, the incredibly addictive allure of network tools. If you want to reclaim your attention, Newport suggests a pretty ruthless challenge called the Network Tool Audit. Think about the apps pulling your attention: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Now ask yourself 2 brutally honest questions. Number 1, would the last 30 days have been noticeably better if I had been using this service? And number 2, did people actually care that I wasn't using it? If your answer to both of those is no, then you probably need to permanently delete that app and take your time back. The tricky part is, we get totally trapped by this shallow, unspoken agreement on social media. It's basically this mindset of, hey, I'll pay attention to what you say if you pay attention to what I say, completely regardless of whether it actually holds any value. It's a trade. You're trading the hard, sometimes lonely work of producing something truly valuable for these empty, easily replicable little likes. It gives everyone this false sense of importance without requiring any actual meaningful effort. If you want to master deep work, you absolutely have to break that cycle. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, Rule 4, Drain the Shallows. This is where we actively tame the superficial busy work in our schedules so we actually have room for genuine depth. Because here's a reality check from performance psychology. Even an absolute master in their field can only sustain about 4 hours of true deep work a day. That's it. Your brain's physical cognitive capacity has a hard limit, and that means you have to fiercely protect those 4 golden hours from the insidious creep of meetings, emails, and just general busy work. If you let shallow work eat up your morning, you literally won't have the brain power left for the deep tasks that actually move the needle in your career. So, how do you actually survive the shallows? First, you need to schedule every single minute of your workday. When you plan out your time like a puzzle, you stop running on autopilot and keep trivial tasks from hijacking your day. Second, quantify the depth of your tasks. Know exactly what you're dealing with. Is this shallow or is this deep? And third, adopt fixed schedule productivity. Set a firm time to clock out, like a hard stop at 5 p.m., and ruthlessly cut trivial tasks to make sure you hit that goal. Forcing limits on your time will make you so much more organized and super protective of your deep work hours. Just like business writer Eric Barker says, deep work is without a doubt the superpower of the 21st century. It's this ultimate career-altering advantage that is hiding right in plain sight. Honestly, most people are just way too addicted to distraction to even notice it's there. But if you can master this skill, the personal and economic rewards are absolutely staggering. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Breaking away from the distracted masses takes a ton of effort. You have to give up the comfort of instant messaging, the casual office chats, and all that social media posturing. But as Cal Newport reminds us, cultivating the ability to produce real, undeniable value in an increasingly distracted world is 100% worth the struggle. A deep life is ultimately a really good life. So are you going to choose comfortable busyness, or will you join the focused few? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you the exact blueprint you need to go out there and master your own focus.